What a powerful moment in modern history. Two of the most influential leaders of our time crossing paths again. And not just any leader, Burkina Faso's captain Ibrahim Traoré. His presence in Moscow didn't just mark an international visit. It marked a new chapter in African diplomacy and pride. This isn't just about an event, it's about symbolism, sovereignty, and seismic shifts in global alliances. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Today's episode dives into a historic moment, the powerful visit of Captain Ibrahim Traoré to Russia. From his high-security arrival to his exclusive diplomatic meetings, this was no ordinary trip. This was the world acknowledging the rising power of a young African leader whose message of sovereignty is echoing across continents. Let's break it all down. Captain Traoré's arrival in Russia, a mission beyond diplomacy. On May 8, 2025, Captain Ibrahim Traoré arrived in Moscow as an honored guest of the Russian Federation. But this wasn't just about attending another diplomatic function. Traoré had been invited as a distinguished guest of honor at the 80th anniversary of Russia's victory in World War II. Let that sink in. In a ceremony known globally for honoring military might and historical memory, Africa wasn't just present, it was being honored. The Burkina Faso government released an official statement explaining the importance of this trip to its people. In it, they emphasized the deepening relationship between Ouagadougou and Moscow, as well as the symbolism of the celebration. Russia's annual Victory Day commemorates the defeat of Nazi Germany, a triumph that stands as a global symbol of resistance against imperialism. In that same spirit, Burkina Faso, now charting an independent path away from neo-colonial influence, was represented by a leader who embodies the modern African fight for self-determination. Security, a top national concern. As expected, the question of security was front and center. Traoré's trips always raise national concern, and this one was no different. Given the geopolitical tensions surrounding Russia, many in Burkina Faso and across Africa were worried. But make no mistake, his journey was meticulously planned. From air escorts to ground protection, his security detail was second to none. Why such extreme caution? Because the safety of Captain Traoré isn't just a matter for Burkina Faso, it's a continental issue. His leadership has become symbolic of African defiance and hope, so any threat to him reverberates far beyond his homeland. Even within the Russian territory, security around Traoré was reported to be tighter than that of many other world leaders. His aircraft's arrival was guided with precision, and his departure will be under equally high protection. It's clear, no risks were taken, and every measure was in place to ensure the safety of a man now viewed by many as Africa's vanguard. Why this visit matters globally. Now, let's talk global significance. Traoré's presence wasn't just a polite diplomatic gesture. He was there shoulder to shoulder with President Vladimir Putin and a selective group of global leaders. And yet, many major African presidents were noticeably absent. No Nigeria. No Ghana. No Cameroon. No Uganda. Not even South Africa's president, who is a member of BRICS, was confirmed to be present. Why were they absent? Before we even dive into Captain Traoré's first official diplomatic meeting in Moscow, let's take a moment to understand the geopolitical tension surrounding this event. The European Union went to great lengths to prevent certain leaders from attending. In fact, in direct response to this gathering, they shut down the airspace over the Baltic region. This wasn't a coincidence, it was strategic. Some leaders who planned to attend couldn't take their usual flight paths. Those routes were blocked. Others were forced to reroute entirely. The message was clear. Powerful forces were actively trying to limit attendance at this historic celebration in Russia. To make matters even more tense, the head of the European Council issued a public warning. He claimed that any leader who dared to attend could not be guaranteed safety. It was a thinly veiled threat, one meant to intimidate and discourage African and other non-Western heads of state from making the trip. But despite these warnings, Captain Ibrahim Traoré did not flinch. In fact, security around him was elevated to the highest possible level. From his departure in Burkina Faso to his arrival in Moscow, every moment was tightly coordinated. The protection detail surrounding him was airtight. No one could get close. His movements were guarded with extreme precision. And honestly, it was striking. For once, we saw an African leader treated with the kind of respect and security usually reserved for presidents of global superpowers. It was powerful to witness. Now, just shortly after touching down in Moscow, to a warm and grand welcome, Captain Traoré began his first round of high-level diplomatic engagements. The meetings that matter. Once in Russia, Traoré's itinerary was packed. One of the key highlights was a private meeting scheduled with President Vladimir Putin. The two leaders were set to discuss bilateral cooperation in defense, energy, and infrastructure development, regional security strategy in the Sahel, including Burkina Faso's pivotal role in counterterrorism, geopolitical alignment, particularly involving emerging global blocs like BRICS+, the Sahel Confederation, and South-South cooperation frameworks. This wasn't your average photo-op diplomacy. These were high-stakes talks about a future no longer dominated by old-world powers. A meeting with the African diaspora in Russia. In a move that distinguished him yet again, Traoré also took time to meet with West African citizens, especially those from the AES Confederation, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, living in Russia. This included students, professionals, and members of the Pan-African diaspora. The objective: to reconnect the diaspora with developments back home and reignite interest in contributing to national development. For years, many Africans living abroad have grown disillusioned, feeling alienated from their home countries due to political instability or lack of opportunity. Traoré's administration is flipping that script. He urged them to reinvest in their homeland, emphasizing that Burkina Faso is now open, stable, and ripe for progress. No longer should the best minds of Africa serve foreign nations while their homelands suffer. His message was clear: Africa must build itself, and its diaspora is a crucial part of that vision. A historic diplomatic moment. Meeting Nicolas Maduro. Another major event during the visit was Traoré's meeting with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The two leaders embraced in what was described as a brotherly exchange. Maduro expressed admiration for Traoré's leadership, particularly his commitment to sovereignty and justice. The Venezuelan president reportedly said, "Africa and South America are not strangers. We are brothers and sisters from the same struggle." That statement encapsulates the heart of this alliance: solidarity among formerly colonized nations who are now refusing to be pawns in global power games. Their meeting aimed to strengthen diplomatic ties between Burkina Faso and Venezuela while pushing a shared agenda: a multipolar world order that gives equal voice to all nations, regardless of size or past colonial status. A new chapter in Pan-African diplomacy. If you followed Traoré's leadership journey, you know he's not like most African heads of state. He represents a generational shift, one rooted in Pan-Africanism, youth-driven change, and refusal to bow to the outdated structures of global power. His appearance in Moscow wasn't just symbolic, it was revolutionary. It marked the assertion of African dignity on one of the world's most prominent stages. He wasn't there to take orders. He wasn't there to ask for aid. He was there to collaborate, to align strategically, and to be recognized, not as a subordinate, but as an equal. This is what Pan-African leadership looks like. Not hiding in the shadows, not playing puppet to former colonizers, but stepping into the global arena with confidence and conviction. Where are the other African leaders? As the celebration unfolded, one couldn't help but ask, where are the other African presidents? Why was Traoré the only one visibly honored? This absence is telling. While some leaders have chosen silence or obedience under Western pressure, Traoré chose courage. His decision to attend, despite geopolitical tensions and threats, signals his independence. He doesn't seek validation, he commands respect. The silence of others only amplifies his voice. In an age where sovereignty is often negotiated for security or economic assistance, Traoré is charting a different course. One where national pride is non-negotiable, and dignity comes before diplomacy. This visit to Russia was more than an event, it was a message. A declaration. A signal to the world that a new Africa is emerging, proud, assertive, and unafraid. Captain Ibrahim Traoré continues to reshape the narrative not just for Burkina Faso but for the entire continent. He's showing the world that African leadership can be respected, that African sovereignty is non-negotiable, and that Africa will no longer stand at the periphery of global power. Let's celebrate this moment. Let's hold our leaders accountable. And most importantly, let's keep the Pan-African flame burning. Stay tuned, because more details are coming soon on the outcomes of these diplomatic meetings, what they mean for Burkina Faso and the Sahel region, and how this visit may reshape global alliances moving forward. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know below. Did your leader show up? Or was Captain Ibrahim Traoré standing alone?